Speaker Mike Johnson has a lot of power to make really bad things happen, and he does use that power. He also has a lot of power to not act, and that can sometimes be just as impactful, for better or for worse. And this example of the latter could not look more corrupt. The Office of Congressional Conduct was established back in 2008 to investigate reports of misconduct by members of the House of Representatives that were submitted from the public. And Johnson does not want it to work. So here are some details. Under House rules, the Office of Congressional Conduct cannot start inquiries, hire staff members, or take formal action on public complaints without a board named by the Speaker. Mr. Johnson did not do so until this month, the longest delay since the office was created in 2008. And even then, he has yet to install a full complement of board members, hobbling its ability to act. The watchdog office was originally set up in 2008 in the aftermath of corruption and bribery scandals, and it ultimately sent 3 members of Congress to jail. The office is still not fully able to work though. So he named just 4 members to a board meant to have 6, meaning that there must be unanimous agreement for the office to formally conclude its reports. And the backlog of complaints that accumulated while the Speaker left the board vacant may delay its small staff from carrying out timely investigations. So you want to talk all about government efficiency and bureaucracy slowing things down, where this is what it is. This is what it looks like, and it is intentional. It's not done by all these regular people who are getting paid maybe like $80,000 a year. It's being done by actual Congress people, by the Speaker of the House, no less. So the backlog, so just from January to March of this year, they received 4,000 messages and they could not act on any of them until Johnson named the first 4 board members. So Johnson has been quiet on why he delayed for so long, but you should know that it's not like this agency is all powerful. It's already very limited. So here's some more on the limitations of the office itself. The office cannot operate without the Speaker's say-so, and it has no punitive power. It can only refer issues to House members for further action. It has no subpoena powers, but its staff conducts interviews and collects documents, then issues detailed reports that describe any possible violation of ethics rules or laws. Also, unlike the ethics committee, inquiries must be completed within 89 days. So Democratic, so here, yeah, this is Representative Chris Pappas from New Hampshire on what he has to say about all of this. It says, Mr. Johnson, his stalling proved that the office needed further independence. He said, we shouldn't be doing this on an annual, biennial basis, he said in an interview. We really should codify this permanently. We've sought to do that through legislation, and we're going to continue to push that idea. Jayar, I thought that all of these Republicans, they love government efficiency, right? They're so against government inefficiency that they created a whole department to fight against it, right? They also hate bureaucracy so much that they created an entire government department to fight against all this stuff. So what are we seeing here? What is this?
Also, sleepy Mike Johnson, why aren't you working, bro? Why aren't you doing your job? Do you ever notice?
Nobody wants to work anymore, Jayar.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he needs to put in 20 hours to get his Medicaid benefits because he just sits in his mom's basement and plays video games all day. You notice this, the type of enforcement that these folks are pushing are the ones that are violent and physical. The folks who run up in Jaden Adler's office and handcuff staff members, the kind of people who run up on work construction zones and handcuff Americans because they have this assumption that if you're too brown that you must not be an American. The kinds of folks who send people to kick in your doors because it's all violence. It's all savage behavior. But when it comes to protecting Americans, they fired inspectors generals. They disbanded all these agencies that protect consumer finances and all that. They disband things that protect Americans. And then they put together and they put power behind people who come and attack Americans. Just pay attention to what they're doing, because it's all covered by the rhetoric. He doesn't talk about this, and apparently not enough people in the media ask him about it because, I don't know, there's too many other things going on. If someone asked him about it, it'd be like a blip on the map. And I'm not even necessarily like blaming media members or reporters for it. Because how could you ask him about this when he's over here literally trying to pass a bill that's gonna take millions of people off of their Medicaid? It's gonna put tons of more money on top of the debt and deficit. That's gonna kill more people because they'll be kicked off it. So it's really hard to go through all the things that he's really doing, or in this case, not doing, to protect Americans. As he then follows around Donald Trump and kisses his ass and talks about how we're gonna pass this big, beautiful bill all the time, and then attacks constituents that have something to say about it. This is who Mike Johnson is. Don't forget, Mike Johnson also compared himself to Moses from the Bible and said everything he does in government is based off of the Bible. If you want to know his worldview, he said, just crack open a Bible and read about it. I'm trying to figure which part about not protecting the people has anything to do with the Bible.
Yeah. It's always interesting to me how Republicans, especially, I'm sure Democrats do some degree of this, but Republicans especially really rely on the fact that their constituents will not think too hard about the things that they say, or they're not going to listen to other forms of media or other commentators or anything else that would make them or force them to think a little bit more about the things that these Republican leaders are telling them, right? Because they say one thing, then they say a completely different other thing. But the thing is, you don't need someone like me or you from the left to tell you that they said this one thing, then they said something else, so the two things can't be true. You should be able to figure that out for yourself, right? Like you shouldn't need somebody else to give you the other side of that story, right? Because that is the whole story. It just is what it is. They said one thing, then they said another thing. They hate whenever Democrats do things like that. They say they can't trust them when they do things like that. But yet Republicans, they do it all the time, to the point that it feels like they're gaslighting you, because they'll say something, they say, didn't you say that? And then they'll say, no, I didn't say that. Also, just a reminder that this department, they were investigating reports of misconduct by members of the House, right? So before we go, I just want to remind you all that Republicans have actually tried to kill this agency before, because why wouldn't they? So in early 2017, House Republicans moved to effectively kill the office by putting it under the control of the Ethics Committee and taking away its ability to accept anonymous complaints. Mr. Trump then, weeks away from the start of his first term, publicly questioned the move, and Republicans reversed course. Because of course, all of that happened. Of course, they tried to get rid of the one body that was attempting to hold any of them accountable, because we all know that this party really doesn't like being held accountable. The president doesn't like being held accountable by the courts, not even the Supreme Court. It's really a lot. So
yeah, this is the thing. One last thing on this. I don't know if I have a couple seconds. As you point out, this body doesn't even have enforcement capabilities.
Yeah,
this is just the basis. They don't want people to know anything. This would give information for folks to maybe take that next step of triggering investigations or something like this. This isn't even accountability to the highest standard. This is just people knowing about it. These are the same folks, again, when Nancy Pelosi and all those other Democrats, whatever, not even just Democrats, all these folks that are elected officials engaged in insider trading type of activities that were exposed. I believe a Republican even got charged with it. They were against it then. But again, when Donald Trump is manipulating markets and openly talking about how his buddies made all kinds of money on the way that he shifted things and made announcements beforehand, before things got back on track for a month, they're okay with it when they're doing it. All you have to do is pay attention longer than 4.5 seconds, and you'll see the way that things are moved from the goalpost of this is the worst thing ever, look at these illegal activities, to, oh, I'm doing it now, this is totally American. It's just the way, it's the standard for where they're operating now, and they figure you'll go with it because this guy's in office.
And I mean, for the most part, they do seem to be just going with a lot of it, which is disappointing.